Yesterday, in an emotional press conference, Aleix Espargaro announced his retirement from MotoGP at the end of the 2024 season, bringing a 20-year career to a close. Now this is a story which has been somewhat expected over the past few weeks. Aleix himself said that he would give himself until Mugello to decide whether he'd retire or not, and it's clear he's made his decision, and for him to be able to announce it at his home Grand Prix at Catalonia is a very poetic end to his career. This year, Espargaro just simply hasn't lived up to the expectations and standards he's set himself over the past 2 or so years, and he's being comfortably beaten by Maverick Vinales at the moment. I think it's best for him to retire now while he's still at a relatively high level, rather than continuing on a bit too long and then end up embarrassing himself halfway down the grid. And he turns 35 this year, and he said it himself, he wants to spend more time with his family, and for that I can utterly respect his decision to retire. Over his 20-year career, Aleix Espargaro has competed in 326 Grand Prix, and with hopefully 15 more to be added for the rest of this season. Let's take a look at his career, shall we, because it's been quite a remarkable career. His career began at only aged 15 in the 125cc class at the final round at Valencia in 2004, in a race which he finished 24th. He was then given the full season in 125cc for 2005, and he did pretty good for a rookie. He managed to score a best result of 7th in China. He did pretty well. And then midway through 2006, he was given a promotion to the 250cc class, or what is now Moto2, on a certain Aprilia. He was a solid mid-table rider for there, consistently in and around the top 10. He spent 2.5 years there until the end of the 2008 season. And then for 2009, he signed for the Campatella team. However, they withdrew just before the season started, leaving Espargaro without a seat for 2009, or not a permanent one at least. So for the first half of the season, he was left to do substitute rides for the Aprilia team. That was until the 19th of August 2009 when everything changed for him, as it was announced he would get his MotoGP debut, replacing Mika Kallio on the Ducati for a few races. Espargaro raced 4 races for Ducati in 2009 and picked up 16 points along the way with a best result of 11th. Pretty good going for a pretty unexperienced rookie. And this clearly impressed the higher ups at Ducati. They offered him a full-time seat for 2010, and he ended up beating his teammate Mika Kallio that season, and he scored 65 points with a best result of 8th. A very solid debut year, especially considering his teammate was not a rookie and Aleix was. However, for some reason that didn't seem to impress Ducati enough because they didn't renew him, and Espargaro went back to 250cc, or now called Moto2 at this point. So for 2011 on that Moto2 bike, he had a very mixed season. However, he did pick up his first career podium at Catalonia, finishing 3rd place. And he finished the season on 76 points and 12th in the championship. In all honesty, a season which in this modern day wouldn't get him nowhere near MotoGP. However, for the 2012 season, Aprilia clearly saw enough in him and they offered him a contract that year. He spent the next 2 seasons with Aprilia and established himself as a very decent mid-table rider. He was by far the best Aprilia on the grid, however he couldn't really get any standout results. He managed to get 8th place a lot of times, but he couldn't get higher than that. So for 2014 he joined the Forward Yamaha team, which was a satellite Yamaha team, and this was by far his best season to date. He claimed his first pole position in Assen, and then he got his first podium in Aragon, finishing 2nd place. And he ended up finishing the season 7th in the championship on 126 points. By all rights, a very impressive season from Aleix. So after establishing himself as being very good on a good bike, you would have thought he'd stay, but he ended up moving to Suzuki for 2015, parking debutant Maverick Vinales. That season, Espargaro scored another pole position at Catalonia, but apart from that it was a very average season from him. He finished 11th in the championship, just ahead of Maverick Vinales. It was sort of what was expected of him really. Then in 2016 it went all wrong for him. While Maverick Vinales scored 4 podiums that year and won a race in Silverstone and finished 4th in the championship, Aleix finished 11th in the championship again and didn't even get on the podium once. He massively underperformed on a bike which was very much capable of fighting for podiums that year, and he also crashed quite a lot for the first time in his career. So Suzuki let him go and he went back to Aprilia for 2017, which is where he stayed ever since. However, unfortunately, Aprilia had a bit of a drop off from when he was there in 2012-2013, which meant that Espargaro was just never able to get any good results out of the bike. There were 4 years straight where he just couldn't do anything. From 2017 to 2020, his best race result was 6th, and his highest finish in the championship was 14th over those 4 years. He was by far the best Aprilia, but he just couldn't do anything on the bike. And because the bike was such a shitbox, he just had to keep pushing it, and he ended up crashing a lot over those 4 years. However, in 2021, him and Aprilia turned a corner, and that year, every race that Aleix finished was in the top 10, and he scored Aprilia's first ever podium at Silverstone in 2021. He ended the season 8th in the championship on 120 points, very impressive for him. However, 2022 was when he peaked, at the ripe old age of 33, not the traditional age for a MotoGP rider to peak, but Aleix is a bit different as we can tell. Aprilia delivered a much improved bike for that year, and Aleix used that to his full advantage, scoring his and his team's first ever win in Argentina on Aleix's 200th Grand Prix, and he set the record for the longest wait for a first victory in MotoGP. From there he managed to launch somewhat of a title challenge. He managed to score 4 third places finishes in a row. However, a difficult end to the season left him finishing 4th in the championship and derailed his title challenge. However, getting his first win and scoring 6 podiums in a year was unheard of from Aleix, and it was still by far his most successful season. 2023, Aprilia fell off a little bit compared to the Ducatis, and Aleix suffered a bit of a slow start to the season. However, after a podium in Aragon, he then delivered a fantastic win in Silverstone in the wet, overtaking Pecco Bagnaia on the last lap. And then 2 races later, on his home Grand Prix in Catalonia, he won both the sprint and the main race on Sunday, helping Aprilia to their first ever 1-2 finish. It was a magical day for Aprilia and Aleix, and it was a mightily impressive performance as well. He completely dominated that race. He ended that season 6th in the championship, scoring 3 podiums along the way. And here we are back at Catalonia a year later, and now he is announcing his retirement after a bit of an underwhelming start to 2024. His highest finish in a race on Sunday has been 7th so far, and while he's had some decent sprint performances, he just hasn't been able to match Maverick Vinales. So far to his name, Aleix has 3 MotoGP wins and 11 podiums, and we'll see if he can add to that tally in his remaining 15 races of his career. Aleix really was a case of aging like fine wine. He only seemed to get better as he got older, which is really rare in MotoGP. We see a lot of riders that are usually finished by the age of 33, but then that was when he peaked, so very impressive from him, and it just shows his remarkable level of fitness and dedication to the sport. However, of course, now that Aleix is gone, there's now a gap at that Aprilia team, which could mean big things for next year. There's already been a lot of rumours flying around about who could replace Aleix on that bike next year. We've already seen Fabio Quartararo rejected them to stay at Yamaha, but there's so many more options for Aprilia could go to. The first one is Enea Bastianini, and he's the most likely, I think. His seat on that factory Ducati is in huge danger at the moment, and it's almost inevitable that he's going to be replaced by either Jorge Martin or Marc Marquez. And I think that if he does get replaced, I don't think Bastianini is going to stay on a Ducati. Negotiations have already reportedly begun between Aprilia and Bastianini, with apparently £4 million per year contract being offered to him. Aprilia are apparently looking for an Italian rider to be part of their Italian team. I think Enea would be a perfect fit for them, and I think he could really thrive under there. Alternatively, if he doesn't get announced as Bagnaia's teammate for next year, I think Jorge Martin should be Aprilia's first choice. He will almost certainly leave if he isn't given that red Ducati next year, and if given the chance, Aprilia should snap him up immediately because I think he's one of the best riders on the grid. I think the best at the moment. However, if both of those fail, another good option would be Marco Bezzecchi. There's been a few rumours that Bezzecchi is looking to move on to a factory bike for next year, rather than staying on that year-old Ducati on the VR46 team. He's looking to make the next step in his career, and I think a move to Aprilia would be a good move for him. He would also fit that Italian rider requirement that Aprilia may be looking for. The final candidate worth considering is Miguel Oliveira. Of course, he's already on that Trackhouse bike, which is the satellite Aprilia team, and he's better than Raul Fernandez. And while he's a solid rider, I feel like Aprilia should go for somebody more ambitious than him. He'd have to be the backup rider, the one that if everything else fails, they go for Oliveira. He'd do an alright job, but I feel like Aprilia should be aiming for world titles, and Oliveira will just not deliver that at all. You maybe get a win here and there. Of course, an alternative option would be to go for a Moto2 rider. However, I feel like if they want to get a Moto2 rider, they may as well put him on that satellite team, the Trackhouse team, rather than put him on the factory bike immediately. I don't think there's anybody in Moto2 really worthy of being given a championship challenging bike in their first season. Anyone else I don't think is really realistic for Aprilia to go for. They don't have the budget for somebody like Marc Marquez. They seemingly have the least budget for rider contracts out of all the manufacturers. So I don't see somebody like Marquez going to Aprilia. In my opinion, I think Bastianini is by far the best choice for them. He seems on his way out of Ducati, and I think he'd suit that Aprilia bike really well. And with him, they could deliver a title challenge, just like they did in 2022 with Aleix. But what do you guys think? Who will replace Aleix at Aprilia for next year? Will it be Bastianini or Martin or maybe Bezzecchi or somebody completely different? Let me know what you think in the comments. And while you're there, make sure to leave a like on the video and hit the subscribe button if you want to see more content like this. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video and I will see you guys soon. Bye bye.